Lots of folks in Washington, D.C. talk about being for the people, protecting their interests, but the reality is many of them don't. But there's one person in this city who actually focuses on average Americans and saying, I'm going to speak on their behalf, and that's my next guest, Elizabeth Warren, chair of the Congressional Oversight Panel, or some may refer to her, TARP's watchdog. Glad to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Let's jump right into it. Is this town, frankly, full of a bunch of wusses, people who talk a good game and totally punk out and are all about the special interests and not the average American sitting at home?
You know, I have to tell you, I'm not a Washington person. I'm a school teacher. I ended up in this place, and I thought I was kind of sophisticated. I'd seen the movies. I'd heard of lobbyists. But I didn't know it was going to be like this. This just amazes me. I had lunch with somebody yesterday who told me that the Wall Street banks have hired 34 lobbying firms.
Just the banks?
Just the banks. The lobbying firms just to kill the Consumer Financial Protection Agency. And I love this part. They hired a 35th lobbying firm just to coordinate the other 34, so they make sure they're in every senator, every congressman's office, morning, noon, night, midnight, handing them every piece of paper and every dollar they possibly can. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, what amazes me is we saw in 2009, we saw the administration, we saw members of Congress standing up, pounding their fists, pounding the table, talking about how these banks have been operating, how they have been totally messing over the American people. But then again, it was all talk. And I was very critical even of the White House, frankly, coming to the game 9, 10 months late, saying, hey, we want to drop a $90 billion tax on these folks to get our money back. And I'm sitting here saying, I'm sorry. If I'm a banker and all you're going to do is just simply give me a tongue lashing, I don't care. I'll take it, and I'll still give out my billion-dollar bonuses.
I think that's exactly right. You know, what really bothers me about this whole process is the game that seems to be going on now is what I think of as the complexity machine. And that is, there are all these lobbyists who are trying to figure out a way to just raise a lot of smoke.
Right.
And to say, well, you know, derivatives and a consumer agency, see, we have to rise, then we've got to move it in the Fed, then we've got to da-da-da-da-da. And the whole idea behind it is to make it so complicated that there's screen, that there's cover, that some guy can stand up and say, well, I'm for the people, but on this particular thing, I'm voting actually with the banks. And that's the whole game, is to create cover. Right. It amazes me. Did you see this Frank Luntz memo?
No. Tell us about it.
So, well, like I said, I'm not one of these people.
Right.
So anyway, so he's the guy allegedly who killed healthcare reform.
And of course, Frank Luntz is a pollster. You often see him on Fox, and so he's one of these prominent pollsters out there, largely for Republicans. Yeah. But again, it all depends upon the issue. They'll jump sides.
You bet. So he's the one allegedly who came up with death panels and all the things that started backing people off healthcare reform. So a few weeks ago, a memo leaked, and the memo is about how Frank Luntz has laid out in 17 pages how you can vote with the banks but use language that indicates you really do hate them because you're on the side of the people. You know, it's a level of just flat out lying that really does. It not only leaves me breathless, it leaves me feeling spiritually depleted. You know, is there just nothing here that we hold on to?
What I don't get is everybody, in terms of American people, and I think we typically hear people say this, take your pick, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, cannot stand how Wall Street is screwing the average person. So why is it that this administration does not take, and also members of Congress, Democrats who run the House and the Senate, and maybe Congressman Barney Frank is a little bit more, obviously more tougher than Senator Christopher Dodd, but why is it that they simply say, look, we're not going to be on your side. We're going to take the case right to the American people, and trust me, when they begin to apply the pressure, none of you will be able to withstand it. Why do they all just sort of back up and are so afraid and timid?
You know, I don't understand this. If we can get some clear votes, I know how those votes will come out. Let me give you an example of that. One of the things we talk about with this Consumer Financial Protection Agency is that we want 2-page credit card agreements, 2-page overdraft agreements, 2-page mortgages, so people can make comparisons. They can see what the stuff costs. They can see what the risks are. They'll be bound. They'll pay, honestly, for what they got, but not the tricks and traps. How does that poll? So AARP put out a poll last week about whether or not people want the 2-page credit card agreement, the clear, small agreements they can see, no tricks, no traps. You ready for this? I've never seen a poll like this. 96% of Americans say, that's what I want. Right. 96%. And here's the best part. 91%, that's what I strongly want. This is what I am willing to shout over. And yet, this has been hung up now in Congress for a year. We saw this week where Senator Dodd frankly said, I'm moving forward without the Republicans. They're protesting. Senator Bob Corker out of Tennessee he wants this agency consumer panel. They're changing the language every single day not to frankly regulate pawnbrokers and all these payday lenders, frankly, who are just totally pimping the black community left and right, but also people, especially poor people, regardless of your color. And on this show, we're all about action. What should the person at home watching, what should they be doing? So, you know, I'm glad you asked this. I'm going to tell you what they should do. Go to Funny or Die, right? It's Funny or Die? FunnyOrDie.com. Okay. All right, it's a website. And the reason I say Funny or Die is because it's going to be the easiest way to find your way into this. Funny or Die now has a video. And it's the former presidents from Saturday Night Live. And they get together and they basically say, you know, we all broke it. We broke it going back as far as Carter. We used to have a financial system that worked, and, you know, I broke a piece, and then you broke a piece, and then another one broke a piece. And they're all giving advice to Barack Obama. And at the end of the day, it's pretty obscene, and there may be some people who may not want to watch it all the way through, but at the end of the day, the point is, Ronald Reagan leans over to Barack Obama in this, and he said, as George Washington said to John Adams, tag, you're it. And that's the point. You're just going to have to get out there and do what's right. But here's the nice part. At the end, there's a phone number. And there's a website link. And that'll get you into the people who say, I have had enough. And I am making those phone calls. If we don't take back our government, it's not just shame on our government, it's shame on us.